Good morning and welcome to Cloud 12's Coffee Chat for District Leadership. Today's topic is student engagement focused schools. A little bit about myself. My name is Emmanuel Reddish and I serve as the Customer Engagement Manager here at Cloud 12. I have a little bit over 16 years in education before officially joining this team. I've served as a teacher, department chair, building administrator, district administrator, as well as numerous state Department of Education committees in Georgia. I've had 3 years as a Cloud 12 customer. We expanded from an initial deployment to a district-wide implementation, and I am very excited to be here as part of the Cloud 12 customer success team. On this call as well with me, I have my lovely colleagues. I have Ms. Kelly Martinez, who is our Director of Customer Success. I have Caitlin Day, who is our Customer Success Manager. I have Jamie Omer, our Customer Success Operations Specialist, and Gracie Oliver, our Customer Success Specialist, as well as myself on this call. And we're all here to just support you and make sure that you're reaching all of your goals, and that today we're getting a little professional learning as we start our day. So let's go ahead and get started. Our objectives for today is to first talk about briefly what is student engagement, kind of do a recap of what we did the last time. And then we want to frame the dialogue and then go right into the 12 standards of student engagement, which is our main focus today. And then I'll allow for questions at the end. You can also submit questions on your screen, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go ahead and make sure that is set up. All right, so now you should be able to message and also write those questions. So if you will, as you have questions throughout the time, feel free to have those put in. But I will also open up the floor for questions at the very end. And you can also come off of mute and video at that particular time if you're wanting to. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to start with this quote by Dr. Pedro Noguera, who's a leading scholar of educational equity. Achievement is the outcome. The means to get there is through student engagement. So again, we're trying to get to achievement. We want achievement academically. We want achievement behaviorally, also social and emotionally for all of our students. And the way that we get there, though, is by making sure that they're engaged. They have to have an engaged mind, an engaged heart, and be willing to work and really grow for themselves. It has to be that intrinsic value that they are looking for. We can't rely on like candy and gifts and games all the time. We have to make sure that we're molding their intrinsic value so that they can be engaged in that. So, as a recap of our last session, what is student engagement? In education, student engagement refers to the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught, which extends to the level of motivation they have to learn and progress their education. And you'll see here, this is an image of quad view of our Cloud 12 platform. So you can see there the teacher is in that top left corner, and then the students are all split around the room for that 360-degree view. So as I'm talking today, I will refer to some in Cloud 12 because again, when we're looking at our videos, we want to make sure that we're getting the best value of that. And we know that research shows that video reflection is one of the strongest methods of increasing our teacher instruction, as well as that student engagement and achievement, being able to reflect upon those and make those changes in lifetime. So that's why that is so important. So in the student engagement focused school, beliefs shape visions and visions drive missions. A belief is something that you have to stand firmly on. It's something that means the most to you. You believe in it, and it's a passion that you have. For example, if I were to say, I believe that every student can learn in this building, every student can achieve. So when I believe that, I put everything I have in it, my entire heart, my emotions, my soul goes into that. And I make sure that every student learns. I can't just say, oh, well, this percentage is going to learn, but this other group they're not doing anything. No, I'm encouraged to make sure that every student learns, and that may be through scaffolding, it may be through additional instruction or extension activities, but however whatever means necessary, you'll make sure that every student learns because that is something that you believe in. And when you believe in that, that belief is going to shape that vision, and then those visions are going to drive those missions. So it's important. And it's important to have staff agreement on that, right? You want to have the right people on the bus. As we said, as I said before, you don't want those educators on that bus unscrewing things and making that ride bumpy for you as you go through your academic journey in the year. You want to make sure you have the right team on that bus as well. So to summarize that again, beliefs shape visions and visions drive our missions. So when we frame the dialogue, because you have to have some strong conversations, and that's what we're going to briefly talk about today. Two types of dialogue must go forward if the values, beliefs, and myths are to be transformed into a culture that supports the notion that working on the work, and that's what we want to do. We want to work on the work, which is that student engagement, that teacher instruction, that pedagogy, our methods, our strategies for success is the way we do business here. We have to have that mindset that everyone at this school, everyone in this district, we believe that every student can learn. We believe that we're setting up students for their future. And first, internal dialogue must occur as each person talks to himself or herself about his or her own situation, your own role, and your personal views regarding these matters. This is dialogue that's known as personal reflection. So the first conversation or that internal dialogue that you must have is with yourself. You have to analyze these 12 standards and think about them as myself and as my role. If I'm a teacher, how do I play a part in this? If I'm a principal, how do I play a part in this? If I'm a custodian, how do I play a part in this? Because cleanliness is an important thing as well. You have to have clean rooms, a clean, safe environment for students to learn. Secretaries, everybody plays a part. It's analyzing how do I help in this particular role. Or how does my role help in this situation? The second form of dialogue involves conversations between and among individuals or groups. And this may sometimes be conversations among peers. The teachers may be talking to each other. It may be teachers and administrators. It may be the entire faculty. And as you're going through this, you want to make sure that you're following the 12 student engagement standards that are going to help to shape this dialogue, okay? So let's go through the 12 engagement standards today. So that first standard is patterns of engagement. When we're looking at student engagement focused schools, the first thing we have to look at are those patterns of engagement. So we ask ourselves, are most students most of the time engaged in the task that they're assigned? Are they working on the work most of the time, majority of that time? When the pattern of student engagement differs from that which teachers want or expect, our teachers analyzing the work provided to discover what might account for the difficulty, right? So in other words, when we're not getting what we're looking for from students, when they're not working on the work, what are we doing to help move that along? Are we analyzing that, or are we just considering it a loss? Or do they instead seek to first explain away the lack of engagement as due to factors beyond their control? So again here, when we see students that are not learning, they're not paying attention, they're not engaged, is our first instinct as educators to say, oh, that's just a lazy child, or that kid doesn't want to learn, or they have a bad home life, that's why they're not engaged? Or are we looking at it from a inquisitive mindset, where we're really researching and diving in and looking at data analysis of what can we control on our side, right? Are we giving too much homework? Are we giving the right amount of resources? Are we tapping into their interests? Do we need to change our desk around to make sure that we are accessorizing our room for the best level of learning? So it's things like that. We have to really analyze that. And is there evidence that over time the level of engagement has increased? Right? Because that's what we're wanting. We're wanting engagement to increase over time, and we want rebellion. when students don't want to do the work, when they retreat, like they start to do other things, and that ritual compliance where they just kind of nod their head, when they're really not engaged. We want those type of actions to decrease, but we want true active student learning and engagement to increase. So all those things happening, we have to look at the patterns of engagement first. What is happening on a regular basis? And when you're doing this, you need to develop a Cloud-12 plan for the expectation of students and how they should respond in the classroom. So now we look at our cameras and we start to do some video reflection and we ask ourselves, are they truly engaged or are they just strategically compliant, right? What should our students be doing that demonstrates that understanding? And that's what we're looking at when we're analyzing our videos, right, of our classes. And how will we know this? How will we know that they've learned, right? Another standard here is student achievement, right? So we want to ask ourselves now, is there solid data on which to base judgments regarding student achievement? Okay. Is there enough data here? Do we have information, quizzes, tests, student work that we're looking at? Do we have enough to base our judgments regarding that achievement? And are those who receive students from the school satisfied that students from the school have learned what they needed in order to succeed in their future environment? And what this means here is if I'm the high school and I'm now getting students that have left middle school and they're coming to us, or if I'm in the middle school as a middle school teacher and I'm receiving students that are coming from the elementary school, or I'm at the college and I'm receiving those students coming from high school, always satisfied with these students and what they've learned, right? So have they met the prerequisites to even be considered on grade level at this point in time? So that's that student achievement that we look at. And when we look at our Cloud-12 videos, we need to analyze those, right? We need to analyze and see how is this data that we're seeing on video, is it comparing with alignment to our reflection of that student engagement? So when I'm looking at my videos and it looks like students are engaged, right? They're raising their hand, they're sitting up in the desk, that may look good on video, but then when I'm doing my quizzes or my formative assessments or an essay or just collaborative work, and I see that students are missing the concepts, they're not mastering the standards, then there's some discrepancies there. So as a teacher or as an educator, I have to begin to look at my Cloud-12 video and begin to reflect and say, okay, so these students over here in this corner, they were sitting up and paying attention, but their work is not matching up, right? Their scores are awful. But I'm looking over here in this side of the room, and these students aren't really sitting up, but their head is kind of down, but the entire time they're writing notes down. They're doing Cornell notes, or they're doing graphic organizers, or they may turn to a partner and say something really quickly, and then come back and listen. Sometimes that may look like disruption, right? But then when I look at the scores and I say, oh, okay, they're actually learning, they're growing, they're mastering the standards, ding, 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 that may be an indication to me now from looking at my Cloud-12 video that I need to be looking for student engagement where the kids have a pencil in their hand or a pen in their hand. They're writing notes. They're doing those graphic organizers. They're having some peer time, some partner talk, right? Those may be the indicators in my class that true engagement is happening. And that's what you have to analyze when you're going through everything. Standard 3, content and substance, right? So I need to ask ourselves now as a teacher, can teachers and principals articulate what students under their care or their tutelage are expected to know and be able to do, right? Because you can't just expect students to know your content if you don't know it, right? The teachers have to know it. And administrators, I'm talking to you as well, administrators have to know what is expected of the students in their schools. A lot of times performance doesn't happen well because administration doesn't know what is expected. Have the faculty and the principal carefully review standardized tests, local and state sponsored, right, to determine the content that officially prescribes and prescribes what students are to learn. Do teachers provide students with a wide range of activities that call on them to work with content, right? And processes identified as worth knowing or worth mastering. Do teachers consider how their students are likely to respond to specific content so that they can either reframe the content or ensure that other dimensions in the work they design will make the content engaging, right? We have to look at those things. And here we want to be sure that we're setting up recurring recordings, right? That's like that set it and forget it, right? Set those recurring recordings on their Kloud-12 dashboard so that now we can use those recordings to begin to analyze how the students are responding to our content and our instructions, right? We have to begin to look at that, focus in on it, because it's step by step and it's a trial and error basis that we have to work on to make sure that we're having success. Standard 4, organization of knowledge. Do most teachers clearly take student interest into account when developing units of work and creating tasks and designing assignments? Do teachers employ a wide range of media and presentation formats to appeal to students with different learning styles and ways of thinking? You can't just always use a PowerPoint, right, or video. Some students are very kinesthetic. They need to get up and move. They need to have action. Some are very dramatic, right? Some students are very visual. Some are hands-on. So you have to put all those into play when you're teaching and instructing so that you're reaching all students, right? And getting them all ingrained. And I've learned over time as an educator that even though someone may have a certain learning style, exposing them to all forms of those learning styles, get them reading, get them writing, get them speaking, listening, moving around the room, being energetic, singing, all of that, that helps to open up all aspects of the brain. And then they can really flow with that creativity and that logistical side as well, because it opens up the full part. Is the content that is presented rich? Is the content rich? And that means, as much as it is possible and practical, are students called on to conduct experiments, read primary source materials, and read books and articles that convey powerful ideas in powerful ways? And what we mean by that is we can't just read about history, for example. We need to be reading the actual Constitution, right? Or reading those sample hieroglyphic writings, looking at those, putting that in our hands, being able to not just talk about chemistry and reactions, but to be able to do reactions in class and then analyze that. That's what's going to help us grow with that organization of knowledge, right? Standard 5, product focus. Do teachers systematically assess students' interests to determine the kinds of products that will be of interest to students? So you have to always be looking for those interests. I'll tell you now, I am not a person that loves sports at all, but I would look at like 10 minutes of sports sometimes just so that I could connect my content somewhat to kind of grasp that kid that does love the sports. And then once you have them, boom, you can take them even further because you're looking at those interests constantly. And do students see a clear connection between what they are doing and what they're expected to produce? Define a plan for how frequent your Kloud-12 reflections will be. What is best at your current stage of implementation, right? So you have to determine how often are you going to reflect, and it's only going to be what is best for your staff. If your staff is new using Kloud-12 or video reflection, you may only want to do one time a week, right? Or once every 2 weeks. But if you're really getting in there, you might start to do it 2, 3 times a week because you're really becoming the expert at that. Standard 6, clear and compelling standards. Do students clearly understand the standards by which their performances, products, and exhibitions will be assessed? Are students encouraged to assess their own work in terms of the standards set, or do they participate frequently in group assessment processes, right? And so here you want to be sure to do a consistent self-assessment of yourself when you're reviewing your videos to see if your standards were presented effectively and were they prepared, right? And how did students respond to that, right? Because now you can see, okay, if I introduce my standards in a certain way and students didn't respond well to that, then I need to try something different, right? Or if they did respond to a certain method of teaching, then I need to continue that. For example, I know that my students years ago responded well to Socratic seminar, so I used it a lot in my class. When I realized that my next year's batch didn't, I had to change my method and do more collaborative teaching and learning. So it just really depends on the student group, but you have to always look at those interests and see what you're teaching to compel them. Standard 7, a safe environment. This is so important. Do students and teachers feel as though they are safe and as they can be in school? Do faculty members treat their students with respect? And are students respectful of each other and all adults in the school? I'm gonna ask this question is not on here, but are staff members respectful of each other, right? We can't be fussing in the hallways and expect our students um, to do well. We have to be an example. And when failures occur, do the teacher or other adults work directly with the student to diagnose the cause of the failure and correct the situation? So now you have to allow your recorded videos to serve as a guide for how your class is functioning, right? And see, is it serving as a safe zone? You should really look at that video and see, okay, I see in that corner, I have my stapler and scissors out over here and they keep falling off. That's going to be a safety hazard. That may be something very small and minute that you can fix very easily. You may also see that certain students are sitting together that is causing an unsafe environment because they don't like each other and there's going to be some friction there. Is there anything preventing your classroom from being safe? Is the bottom line. That's what you're looking for, trying to see how you can always improve upon that. Standard 8, affirmation, sorry. Our students individually and in groups provided opportunities to display for others what they're doing in class and through the rest of the school. So an example here, if you have a school that is, K-8, for example, are your sixth graders writing stories that your second graders can now read, right, and learn from? Are we intertwining? Are we showcasing our work in the school? Because that gives it a little more value, right? It gives it, it affirms what we believe in, and it affirms our work efforts. Do adults other than parents, teachers, and guardians regularly view student performances and products and comment on what they see? So this is like good to have mentors in your building that can also affirm that, because when students feel positive about what they've done and what they're doing, they feel that value, that just motivates them. That's when you begin to see that intrinsic motivation happening and growing there. Affiliation, right? Is group work designed in such a way that cooperative action is needed to complete the work assigned successfully? Or could the work be accomplished by one person working alone? Okay. And are some of the products students produce clearly intended to be useful to other students, parents, or community leaders, right? We want to see how we can affiliate ourselves in the community and on a broader horizon. Novelty and variety is standard 10. Are all students provided opportunities to lead, right? Sometimes we only pick certain people. Is everyone given that opportunity to lead others? And are they offered assistance in carrying out these leadership functions when they do have some difficulties? And is the setting for instruction varied, or does all instruction occur in the classroom? I would suggest you, if you haven't done it before, go outside sometimes. Have an outdoor classroom. If you can't go outside, go to the media center. If you can't go there, change your room up. Change the environment constantly so that it does not become stagnant. I used to love when I was doing my poetry units. We would always go outside on those days and really just begin to accept different forms of instruction, because it keeps that learning fresh, it keeps everything moving, and it keeps them engaged. And that's our purpose. Standard 11, we're almost done. Choice. Are students provided opportunities to select modes of presentation and means of acquiring information, right? Are they provided opportunities to do different things? So is it always going to be an essay? Is it always a presentation? Let students have choice, right? And that's a big thing. I always used to try to tell students, hey, I want this, or I want to see this particular thing. So that's so important. Our students provided opportunities to participate in decisions regarding the processes to be employed in assessing performance and determining the standards by which their performance will be evaluated. That's also highly important. And last but not least, authenticity. Do students feel that the tasks they are assigned are within reach if they expend the effort, right? If I actually put my mind to this and I really work hard, do I feel like I can even obtain these goals? Are they attainable, right? And are tasks designed in ways that increase student ownership for the quality of the results? We want the students to have that ownership of the work that they're doing, and that's that final step of that student engagement. And I ask you this, when it comes to the Kloud-12 or your video reflection, cameras show the reality, right? Cameras show reality and they remove subjectivity because it just presents what is actually there. So you have to really be honest with yourself and be authentic. What are my Kloud-12 cameras showing? And what needs to remain in my class? What needs to go and what needs to change? I mean, that's one reason I love Kloud-12 so highly, and the team, is because it is authentic. It shows the reality of what is. There's no more he said, she said, or I think this or this person thinks that. It shows us the reality that is there. And it removes that subjectivity. And I'm not going to harp on it, but we know that with Kloud-12, you have that one time set it up. You can do that recurring recordings, customize your schedule. It's the 360-degree view. And everything goes straight to our Google Drive or OneDrive, and you can view all angles for reflection. And again, here we can look at what are our students doing and what is the teacher doing, right? The student should be doing at least 80% of that work. Teacher is really the facilitator. And is all this working cohesively together? Okay? So to end us, there is no single prescription for the way the needed dialogues that we just talked about in those 12 standards might occur in a school or within the private reflections of individual teachers. However, at the bottom line, at the end of the day, they need to occur, right? However you go about doing that in your school or your district, just know that it needs to happen. We have to begin to have honest and open conversations about student engagement, about our achievement, and that's how we're going to begin to see growth. Okay? I want to thank you for attending. And for any follow-up questions or to set up a meeting for your district or school leadership team, or to have, we have PD sessions you can purchase as well. Or if you just want additional interest in Kloud-12, you can contact me directly via email at emmanuel@cloud-12.com. You can also set up a meeting directly with me on my Calendly link at calendly.com/Emmanuel Reddish. I hope you've enjoyed today's session, and at this time, I'm going to pause for any questions that anyone may have. Let me make sure I have my Q&A page up, and I'll wait just a few moments if anyone has any questions. And if you don't mind, there's a brief survey at the end if you will fill that out once the session is ended. Okay? All right. If there are no questions, thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And please fill out that survey for me. Thank you all. Have a blessed day.